In the last episode, we found out that file breakage is the worst endodontic nightmare of our followers. So we dressed accordingly. Look how beautiful we are.
Nice.
And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second episode of Endocast. This is a series of podcasts hosted by Ahmed Shoki. So hi, Ahmed.
Hi, Francesca. And of course, hosted by Francesca Shiriti. So, in the last episode, we analyzed some of the results of the poll, but in this episode, we aim to summarize the effect of separated instruments on the outcome of root canal treatments.
So, Ahmed, you are a lecturer at the University of Cairo, and you read tons of scientific articles. How can we know which articles we can trust, for example?
So, of course, we read a lot of research articles every day, but we gain our sound evidence from the highest level of evidence. If we look to that pyramid, we have the highest level of evidence coming from systematic review and meta-analysis because they are filtered data from a lot of well-designed studies. So we get our data from those studies, but we have lower level of evidence of case reports. We can use these case reports just to know some techniques, to know how cases were managed, case series as well. But when we look for the evidence, we search for the top of the pyramid, systematic reviews.
Yeah, of course. And so when we have to look at the kind of articles that talk about separated files or broken file, well, there are many of them, but few of them are high-level evidence. And it takes a lot of time to do this research, but luckily we have Dr. Giulia Malvicini, who did an extensive literature research for us. So thank you, Giulia, for sharing this information with us and saving tons of our time. And let's see which are the topics that we have to investigate. So, Ahmed, what do you think?
I think the first important topic to investigate is the incidence, in my opinion, the incidence of file breakage. How often files break in our practice?
Well, I have the answer. Incidence goes from 0.4 to 23% in this article, but in general, it's 5%. So, as you look at this percentage, it's not that high to be the most relevant endodontic nightmare, I think.
Nightmare.
Yeah, definitely. But the second question can be, who breaks files?
Okay, I got the article here. I read the article. It says that 79% of general dental practitioners broke the file at least once in their life. And if we consider endodontists, the percentage rises to 93%.
Yeah,
you know why?
There's a reason. We treat more complex cases. So we treat retreatments, calcified canals, etc. So in these cases, the chance of breaking a file or separating a file rise dramatically. So it's not completely our fault.
Yeah, we deal with a lot of cases. Every day, sometimes we break files if we have a lot of cases. And if we ask where the most file separation can happen, we have an answer that the mandibular molars are the winners. And the mandibular molars are the winners in this case because they have difficult accessibility in many cases, and they have tight canals, curved canals. The root canals are usually small in diameter. What do you think about that?
Yeah, most of the separated files that I find are in the mesial roots of mandibular molars. So my personal statistics is consistent with the literature. And when we think about the zone of the tooth in which there is the highest chance of separating a file, the literature says it's the apical third. What do you think about this?
Yes, I completely agree with that because the apical third is complex in nature. We can find some deep splits, we can find abrupt curvature, confluences, lateral exits, curvature in the multiple planes. So the conditions in the apical third is totally different from the coronal two-thirds of the root canal. So that's why I think.
Yeah, yeah. Also because curves can be a problem for some files, and abrupt curvature or multiplanar curvature can be a problem for every kind of file. So yes, definitely when we face this kind of anatomy, it's very likely to go into a procedural error probably. And what do you think about the fact of treating curvatures? How can we manage?
I think the best thing is to try to adjust or adapt the curve to our procedure. So when I have an abrupt curvature with a small radius of curvature, I try to do a strategy to just increase the radius of curvature, so it will be a gentle curvature. And I have to mention also, it's not only curvature, but it's also confluences, because clinicians should know that confluent canals are one of the top reasons for separating files, and these happen a lot in mandibular molars, by the way, in the apical third. So many times the file go in one canal smoothly, and when you go into the other part of the confluence, it's like an S shape. So it will break. That's why we need to address that type of anatomy in our strategy. Another factor we have to consider, I think, is the type of files. The type of files, because when we're talking about the type of file that can separate, I think we can have the full endodontic catalog inside the root canal.
Yeah, lenticular spirals, K files, H files, R files, rotary files. So during my master, I did a very record I'm very proud of. I was trying to do a Brady technique to remove a thermophil from a root canal. And since the H files I were using were a little bit stressed, I was able to break the 3 of them into the tooth. So an easy retreatment turned into a 3 hours nightmare in which I got to remove everything. So I was able to do it, but it was really stressful. At a certain point, my watch tell me, your heart rate is too high. Are you training? No, I'm not. I'm just removing a broken file from a tooth. So it was a drama. But apart from this, what's the most dramatic file separation that happened to you?
Actually, my most dramatic file separation that happened to me is in the lower molar with the middle mesial anatomy. And we know that the middle mesial anatomy is most probably existing in a confluent configuration, and that's why I mentioned the confluence. So I thought that I can, and it wasn't that old treatment. It was while I'm having some experience. So when you have some experience, you can drive and push your file to the edge, as you know. So it was dramatic because that file blocked all the exits of the root canal. So it just was hanging at the confluence, and I couldn't go from that mesiobuccal, from that mesiolingual. It was in the middle of the exit, and I had to consume another visit to just remove it. And of course, that led to another problem, in my opinion, and I was sad about it, that I had to remove some dentin from a very thin area in the lower molars, which is the isthmus area. So it was so dramatic.
That's it. What about the alloy of the files?
We have to remember that concerning the files, that the files can break by 2 modes. We have 2 modes of fracture or breakage. We have torsional stresses and cyclic fatigue stresses. And literature that tell us that when we have a rotary file that is martensitic in nature, it will be more resistant to the cyclic fatigue in the root canal during the operation. This is something we should remember when we pick our files as per the anatomy. You evaluate the anatomy, you select your instrument accordingly. So this is the point that you should base your selection of the file on.
Yeah, we cannot use one file for all the root canal treatment.
Never.
In my opinion, someone says they can do, I can't. Really, I pick the file according to the anatomy of the tooth. And
exactly.
Also, we also have to keep in mind that the temperature also counts, because an increase in temperature will decrease the resistance on the cyclic fatigue in all types of nickel titanium rotary files. And also the kinematics counts. And I say it being completely and totally in love with continuous rotation, but if we use files in reciprocation motion, they seem to have a lower incidence of fracture due to the cyclic fatigue and to the torsional stress. And I know you know it because you use a lot of reciprocation motion in retreatments, isn't it?
Yeah. Actually, the fact that the reciprocation motion can keep the file well below the level of the ultimate stresses. So with each stroke, the file is not reaching its limit. So it can increase the time to fracture of the file, as well as sometimes when we have curvatures, we can see that the reciprocating motion can allow the file to just flow inside the anatomy without doing any alteration or transportation. So yes, reciprocation can reduce the stresses on the file well below the fatigue limit and makes the file live more and do not break, of course.
And do you think we missed something in our analysis about the files?
Yes, I think we need also to know, and the clinician should know when they select the file, the design of the file. We have to know the cross-section, for example, because the cross-section, when you know the cross-section and in the incidence of breakage, you need to know is that cross-section is removable, bypassable, and also we need to know the fact that large diameter cross-sections are more subject to cyclic fatigue failure, and small tapered instruments and thin files are more liable to torsional fatigue. So this will make you address the way that you are using your file. So, for example, do not push a thin file in a tight clamp, and also do not take a large diameter file or a large taper file down a severe curvature. Yeah. This must be well known to the clinician, not a specialist, all clinicians.
Yeah, because this is not going to end up well if we use a very large file in a curvature. But now I think we mentioned all of the aspects that can play a role in file separation. But still it's not enough, because the people want to know how to avoid file separation, and if it happens, how to manage. So maybe we could get help by some friends for the next episodes.
Yes, and as we always say, prevention is better than cure, because if you prevent it, you don't have to spend a lot of time, you don't have to sacrifice a lot of tooth structure. So we need to prevent, and if we couldn't, in some cases, we need to ask the help of some of our friends. Yeah. I think we need to do that in the next episode.
We will. I think it's a great idea. So if you guys have some questions or doubts, please drop us a line and we will get back to you. And stay tuned.
Bye-bye.
Bye.